Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kimm. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for tuning in to another installment of The Cold Truth. I am Kimm, and our topic for discussions this afternoon, race relations and the political divide. Now, how we vote is not how we party. The different ethnic groups in Trinidad and Tobago seem to get along on the surface, but throw politics in the mix and a clear division begins to surface. Some have said it is the politicians who use race to divide us, like Satmaraj did yesterday, while others have suggested the elders are reinforcing old ideas and negative stereotypes. Today we have with us President of the local chapter of the GOPIO, Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, Mr. Karan Nanku, and representing the Black Caucus movement, we have the chairman of the Women's Arm, in addition to she's the communications officer, Empress Judy, who is no secret to Synergy TV, who is no stranger to Synergy TV. So welcome, guys. Thank you. Now, both of you represent organizations that aim to represent the collective interests of a particular ethnic group. I am interested in finding out your views on the topic of race relations and the political divide. But first, can you help the viewers at home understand your organization's vantage point? And we're going to start with Mr. Nanku.
Thank you very much, Kimm. And should I say thank you very much for accommodating me in your program and giving me this invitation. But whereas you mentioned that I am the president of the local chapter, a global organization for people of Indian origin here in Trinidad and Tobago, I also represent other interests. And I must say that I'm a Hindu Pandit, attached and associated with the Trinidad Academy of Hinduism. I am an alderman at the Shogunas Borough Corporation, as well as I belong to other associate groupings. And what that is to say is that even though I may look young and handsome, I have a lot of experience and I represent a lot of interests, otherwise, legal and otherwise, in this country today. And as you will be aware, I only received this invitation earlier today, so I did not discuss this issue and appearing on your program this afternoon, representing the interests of any of those organizations. But with my experience in those organizations and otherwise, I will give my own personal views.
I appreciate that, Mr. Nanku. So are these organizations necessary, the GOPIO?
Of course, these organizations are actually watchdogs to the interests of certain people whom they represent.
Okay, but why though?
The fact is that in this country, as we understand it, it is a cosmopolitan territory. It's a cosmopolitan makeup of people. Here we have the majority of people being Indians and Africans. And I want to stop here for a second. I have been hearing about Indo-Trinidadian and Afro-Trinidadian. I do not know what that is when we talk about racial issues. And I'll tell you why. If I were to be from India, directly from India, holding an Indian passport and Indian citizenship, how will you call me? Indian?
Correct.
If I were from Grenada, how would you call me? Indo-Trinidadian? I will be of Indian descent, so my race will be Indian. And well, some of you here are very young, well, maybe like myself too, but I'll tell you, in yesteryear, when we fill out a form and you have race, we used to have East Indian and African, and you fill out of that. Now we have mixed races and several others in today's world. But the fact is, I am proud to tell the world that I am of East Indian descent.
As you should, Mr. Nanku, and I really do appreciate your honesty. Now, Empress Judy, the Black Caucus movement. Why do you feel that the BCM is necessary?
Thank you, Kim, and I'd like to say a pleasant good afternoon to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Good afternoon to all those members, all the members of the Black Caucus movement. Very, very pleasant good afternoon to our founder, Mr. William Monroe. I just want to say thanks to you, Kim, for having me here this afternoon, speaking about the Black Caucus movement. The Black Caucus movement is a movement geared to the upliftment and the enrichment and the enhancement of the lives of the African ethnic family in Trinidad and Tobago and the world by extension. Kim, you asked why we see the need for a Black Caucus movement.
Yeah.
We see a need for the Black Caucus movement. In fact, our dear founder, Mr. William Monroe, saw it fit. And I still believe he sees it fit where we have a representative, where we have an association which will stand up for people. But you know, you have asked me some questions just before we came on. What's happening in the Black Caucus movement and stuff like that.
But we're gonna elaborate on that in the second half of the show.
What I would like to say is there's a need for representation because, you know, we, the African community, have seen and we have said it out loud that we haven't had anyone who truly represents us. Even though there were times when we had the political groups like the People's National Movement, which I am a member of that movement. Since I know myself, my family, we all supported the movement. But we have always had complaints where that political group have never supported us in the way that we would have liked to. We have no representation in the sense of somebody standing out distinctively for the people of African descent.
Right. So now, Mr. Nanku, you state that you are East Indian.
Of course I am.
So what would you refer to Empress Judy as? An Afro-Trinbagonian, a mixed race Trinbagonian?
It is African.
She's African.
And even though people say otherwise, you have to translate it to African for we to understand who she really is.
And I would like to say I'm proud to be African. I've never seen myself.
And I congratulate you for that.
I've never seen, and nobody dare call me anything but
You
mix.
see, I'll tell you something, Kim.
Yes, my love.
There are many people who misinterpret race from nationality.
Exactly.
That's right.
And that is something we have to be careful about.
Mr. Nanku, and you are so right. You know, I was walking through Woodford Square like a year or so ago, 2 years ago, I could say. And I met three men, two of African descent, one East Indian gentleman, and they had an argument. And fortunately for me, they stopped me and asked me, tell us who we are. And I turned to them and said, you tell me who you think you are. The African man said, I am Trinidadian. The other guy said, well, I'm Trinidadian too. The East Indian man said to me, I am of East Indian descent, but my nationality is Trinidadian.
And he's quite correct.
And I was so proud of him. And I said to the two gentlemen who refer to themselves as Trinidadian, full stop, I said to them, a cat which is born in an oven is still a cat. Meaning, an African born wherever in the world, once you have that blood,
Right.
once you have that DNA going through your vein, because let me tell you something, if someone is found and they in a skeletal form,
Right.
someone who have died and they find a corpse, when they run that DNA on you, there's nothing else that they will say about you, of your ethnic race, who you are. They will either say you are of East Indian descent, Caucasian descent, African descent.
And that's
your
very
DNA,
correct.
Your DNA deems who you are. You can change, listen to me, you can change your clothing, you can change your complexion, you can change anything about you, but one thing you cannot change is your DNA, which is a deoxyribonucleic acid. You cannot change that.
And that's very correct.
Right. So, Mr. Nanku, do you think that, given the progress of the East Indian community, do you think that the African community has been adequately represented in this country?
I would think no, and I'll tell you why. In this country, from ancient history, the Africans gave their identity, they gave their strength to the English. And that is the reality. Take the clothing that the Africans wear generally. You know, at Emancipation Day, a few of us put on African clothing and call ourselves African,
Dashiki.
and so on, dashiki and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But all year round, we put on the clothing that was brought here by the English. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll tell you, to include ourselves in society to an extent, we all wear the English because Trinidad is an English-speaking country.
Right.
We were ruled for a long time. I might be wearing a jacket now, but I came straight from my office.
Right.
If I had come here otherwise, well prepared to represent the Indian community, I would have dressed otherwise.
Right.
And I want to agree with Mr. Nanko, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Because, you know, one thing that I found out about the African community, not everyone, there are some of us who are aware of who we are. We have identified ourselves. Like I have identified myself. You see, I am in an African-looking dress. And persons who know me will know that I am proud to be African. And we have what we have found ourselves having, an identity crisis. Identity crisis. And just as you said, a few of us only knows we are African, some of us, on Emancipation Day, the 1st of August, and then we go back to our old ways.
Some of us are ashamed to say I'm African or I'm Indian.
And you are quite right.
And I'll tell you.
But why?
We wish to tell people the things we feel they want to hear.
And I'm agreeing with you, because I think people want society to see them in a way that they will accept them. And you have to accept me as who I am. Again, I am saying, I am of African descent. My ethnic group is African. I belong to the African community. And once you are able to be proud of who you are, that's the beginning of the end of your problems.
Kimm, and in continuation of the question you asked me, you remember you asked me if I feel that the Africans in this country are adequately represented? And I said no. And I'll tell you something. You take African religion, it's the Orisha and the Baptists. And in this country today, what is the percentage of people of African origin being part of the Orisha or the Baptist faith?
Right.
And that is very sad. And I support the Baptist and the Orisha at all times. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, my good friend and sister here mentioned Woodford Square. I'll tell you, when I was working in Port of Spain, I was a Woodford Square boy because I never eat lunch. I never eat during the day. I spent my whole lunch hour at Woodford Square. And there were a lot of conversations. And I remember a similar discussion came up with regard to race and culture and so on. And I told a popular person of African descent, an African leader, but I will not call his name because he's not here and I'm not quite sure if I'll offend him. And I told him, I said, here what? My name is Karan Nanku. 2 Hindi words that came from India. And they're both Indian. I said, what's your name? And when he quoted it, I said, they're 2 English words. I said, here what? I can sing 100 Indian song here for you now. Sing 1 African song for me. And he could not do it. And the whole of the audience started to laugh and carry away. But they understood the point I was making.
Mr. Nanku, could we stick a pin in this to take this call? Hi, good afternoon, caller. Welcome to our program.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, my love.
I would like to call and make a contribution to this program.
Yes, my love, you are live.
I don't mean to offend anybody, but I am the kind of person who believes in the truth regardless of how raw it seems. Now, there's an incident in this country. We have a particular gentleman who, because of his personal life, people are using that advantage, something he has in his personal life, which I think, is bad. But they are using that to remove him from office. And it was used, the term was used, hung him out of office. Why it is one race of people, the term was used against them, hung him out of office. And I think everybody knows who I am speaking about. Another gentleman, they want to get him out too. They're bugging his office. Is it a conspiracy by a certain race of people to control the entire judiciary? Now, if this is so, as it seems, if this is so, then that gentleman now who people want to hound of office going to end up in front of the same people who represent certain interests. If he has to go in a court of law, how would he see it?
Thank you so much.
I don't want anybody to tell me I'm not coming plain, because I think everybody should understand. Certain people want to control the judiciary by any means necessary. And if it's been looking up any African who is anywhere, that is what they plan to do.
Thank you so much.
And they could deny it how they want. They know it is the truth. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much. I believe the caller is alluding to the issue with respect to the Chief Justice being hounded out of office. It's no secret that these were newspaper headlines.
But Kimm, I must say that the Chief Justice has not been hounded out of office. He is not.
And we got to take this call. Hi, good afternoon. Hello. Caller, you are live. Hello, good afternoon. Okay, so whilst you can call back 622-9785 or 628-6093, but there are great. Now, Mr. Nanku, do you wish to answer the question?
Of course I can, and I would continue to say, I will reiterate actually, that the Chief Justice is not being hounded out of office. The Chief Justice holds a very senior position in the society. He is the head of the judiciary. He is the head of justice in this country. There are certain issues surrounding his office.
Right.
There are certain issues that needs to be answered and clarified.
Right.
One is the Marcia Ayres Caesar issue. Now, Marcia Ayres Caesar is not one of Indian descent. So if we are talking race relations, I do
Right.
not represent her.
Right.
But the fact is that there is an unsolved, an unresolved issue that has not been resolved. If it is that you are head of the judiciary and there are judiciary problems, there are problems surrounding the judiciary, why is it are you shelving it and not dealing with it immediately? That causes the people in society, and this has nothing to do with race or race relations, people in society will lose confidence in the judiciary, and which that is happening. As a matter of fact, it can increase crime because of the fact that criminals in this country feel that justice denied is justice, justice delayed is justice denied, and if it is that they're before the courts and their matters are not being appropriately dealt with, they can very well sue the state for that issue of justice is justice denied. And a lot of cases, let me not say too much on this station,
Right.
so for criminals to go on the rampage
Right.
and file a set of lawsuits. But that's a fact.
Thank you so much.
And then we also have the issue about the housing that was not dealt with.
But we'll get into that, but I want to hear Empress Judy's position on the issue with respect to the Chief Justice, because the second part of the caller's contribution is that there are claims that the East Indian community are trying to take over the judiciary, as many people are of the view that they control many sectors within the society.
This claim has been something that has been said in the air, but the Black Caucus movement, we are not about propaganda. We do not want to make statements, because anytime you make a statement, it is our logo, it is our name that goes out there. And I want to be careful this afternoon about accusing anyone until we have proper evidence, until we have all the opinions and the facts and the views. Because sometimes we read things in the media, we listen on the radio where we get erroneous news. Not every news you hear is correct. And at this point in time, the Black Caucus movement, we are not going to be going into any fray. What I usually say, suffering from the foot in mouth syndrome, saying things that we are not positive about.
And therefore you will disagree with the point that the caller was making.
What I'm saying, for the time being, I cannot and I will not make any statement saying openly.
And therefore we are on the same
When
page.
I said saying openly, making that claim, that accusation, you have to be very careful when you say things about people and you do not have all the facts.
But apart from that, I do not know who is the person who is trying to remove the Chief Justice that he's talking
and
about.
that is what we need to find out, if there needs to be.
He did not say it, and I view that as being coward.
So listen to me. Again, the Black Caucus movement, we are not about propaganda, because we know in Trinidad and Tobago, we are a propaganda country. One person says something and we say everybody said it. And I would like us as a people to get our facts right before we make any claim. We will support the Chief Justice. He's one of us. The Black Caucus movement, so we support everyone that belongs to our African ethnic family, but we are not about to make statements that will cause our organization.
I will tell you something. I will not support or not support anybody in a senior judicial position based on race.
Okay, what I'm saying,
it is based on meritocracy.
What I'm saying is, we are not talking about race, we are talking about our African ethnic family. He's one of our family. You don't throw family down the drain. You support your family, but we are saying, I am not going to be sitting here and making any claims that I do not have facts about, saying anything about the East Indian community or anyone for that matter.
And therefore, any caller raising that issue should come with the facts.
Of course.
Good, great.
And we've got to stop for this call. Hi, good afternoon. Caller, you are live. Hello. 622-9785, 628-6093, caller.
Good evening, Miss Kimm.
Yes,
Good
Tanti.
evening, Mr. Nanku, well-learned man. Your last guest Lady Empress.
Empress
Lady
Judy.
Empress, it is a pleasure to speak to you. I am a fan of yours. I've always been. But I would like to tell you today, I myself, if I had it within my power, I would have nominated you for Parliament to represent the black being African man.
Thank you.
Give them representation in Parliament. And whoever it is hearing Tanti here today, listen to Lady Empress. Not only is she eloquent, her D's and thous, she crosses her I's and dots her T's. Lady Empress, I'm a fan of yours. I listen to you. You're eloquent. You're my lawyer. If I needed a lawyer, I would come to you. And you stand up and don't let anybody put words in your mouth. Now,
Thank
you
you.
have a blessed day. I enjoy the program. Miss Kimm, it's Tanti and I'm locked on. God bless.
But that's all you have for me this evening. All right, thank you so much for your contribution. Mr. Nanku, do you, in your capacity as the president of GoPio, see a need for an organization like the Black Caucus Movement to provide representation for the African community?
Yes, because I'll tell you, just as Indians are discriminated against in certain quarters, similarly, Africans are discriminated in certain quarters. And I want to tell you something. I was in a conversation earlier today, and I said, there was a time, and there still are people, when a Baptist person or an Orisha person, and I'm talking about two religions that came from Africa, when they give a bush bath, or they recommend a bush bath to somebody for some problems, there are some people who call it obia. Today, there are those who call it aroma therapy
Yes.
and pay big money for it.
And
And I am one of the persons who defend the Baptists and the Orishas and all Africans based on that system because I understand it.
Mr. Nanku, one thing I always admire about the East Indian community, they uphold their culture and what they have brought with them from India. And we, the African community, we have dropped all that we have learned because it wasn't really our doing. As if you go down to the book of history, it was said that we were beaten into accepting this way of life. But our grandparents and great-grandparents, our ancestors, kept the fire burning even low. They didn't have a big flame because they couldn't. But I am very proud to know that you, being an East Indian gentleman, recognize the importance of the African community upholding their tradition and customs as a people. That belongs to you. It is you. You cannot change what is embedded into you. You can run, but you can't hide.
Mr. Nanku, pardon me, could you list some of the accomplishments of the East Indian community, at least within the last 25 years?
Okay, I'll tell you. It is based not only on ethnicity, but it is based basically on a culture. And when I talk about a culture, I do not mean music and so on. No. I mean culture generally. Yes. The way we carry about ourselves, the way we work, our attitude and so on. And I'll tell you, people of Indian origin believe in economic power as opposed to people of African descent who believe in political power.
And I would like to stop you right there to take this call, but we have to pick up on that economic power topic. Good afternoon, caller. Thank you for holding.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Our sister dear, I must say, I have a little problem with some of our people when they say they don't want to hear our people spreading propaganda. I am not on no propaganda. I am on facts. Whether people like to hear it or not, when SAP marriage putting over his thing, you see, none of these people telling me spreading propaganda. As one of our people come to our own defense of one of us must come there to say something to see they could shut them off. One of our own people. And it is disgusting. Anybody out there who wants to believe in truth will see what is really going on in the whole judiciary in this country. What talk about bring judiciary into disrepute? The judiciary is already into disrepute. They have a man sitting in our Senate right now with prison gate who is sitting in our Senate and dictating pace. Right? These, one of our people, I spoke to them about it and they said they can't do anything about it. When Mr. Manning appointed Mr. Pandey, he did it based on moral and spiritual values.
He said Mr. Manning appointed Mr. Pandey. That was not true.
Listen to me. You listen to me, sir. It's from that point I'm making.
But
When
caller,
Mr.
excuse
Randin
me,
was appointed
hold on a
the
minute, hold on a minute.
The PNM
If you are
has
making a
right to
point,
moral and
caller, if you are making a point, I would ask you to be very accurate in your assertions. You just
I am
pointed
very
out.
accurate.
No, you just pointed out that Mr. Manning appointed Mr. Pandey.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
And my guest
Sorry,
attempted
I'm
to
sorry.
correct you.
I'll apologize.
Appreciate it.
I'm speaking about morals here. Mr. Robinson appointed Mr. Manning based on moral spiritual values. Right? The point I am making, you have a man sitting in the Senate right now who is under police investigation. It was an African man, everybody in Hong Kong, whosoever appointed him. Right? It should have been a poll based on moral and spiritual values. You cannot be under police investigation and sitting in my Senate and dictating pace to me. Not in my country. That should not be allowed to happen. If it is an African, everybody get down on it.
Caller, could you give me just a first name of the respective senator that you are leveling such allegation against? Hello?
Anyhow, this is my contribution.
Kim, I would like to respond
Thank
to
you
the,
so much.
to the caller with reference to, again, I'm going to state categorically clear that the Black Caucus movement, we are not about to get ourselves into any fray without having the facts before us. We are not going to be basing our voices on what somebody said without having factual evidence where this is concerned. We do not want to have our organization thrown into any bacchanal and confusion. This is where we are not able to function when we are engrossed in things like this. Again, I'm saying to you, the Black Caucus movement, we will not be getting involved in hearsay. We will be basing on anything we say will be based on facts where we can prove this is what we are speaking about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, good afternoon, caller. Welcome to our program. Hello? Caller, you are live. You can call back 622-9785 or 628-6093. Now, the topic getting a little sticky, but I want to stay on course. Do you think politicians are still using race relations against us to win votes based on support from specific ethnic groups?
Kim, the answer is both yes and no. And I'll tell you something. Politics is about power. And there are many politicians who are strong enough to understand if you want someone to support you and you know they like football, you talk football with them.
Right.
They like cricket, you talk cricket with them.
Right.
They like religion, you talk religion with them. And if they like race, you talk race with them. And nothing is wrong with that if you are on a one-to-one.
Right.
And that's the game of politics, as Mr. Nanku has said. That's the game of politics. And once we understand that's the game of politics, then we should not encounter ourselves with worrying about this thing. Because just as you said, Mr. Nanku, there are persons in Trinidad and Tobago, or the world for that matter. It took place in the US of A recently, right, with the incoming new president. It took place where race was a big game card. And so in Trinidad and Tobago, we see it played over. You are our people. Support your kind. It's something that we always accustomed to. But again, that's the game of politics all over the world.
Hi, good afternoon, caller. Welcome. Caller, you are live.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, my love, good afternoon.
The question I want to ask, right? I don't think we have any problem identifying the ethnicity of the East Indian and the African, right? The question I want to ask is that what ethnicity we must identify the mixed race, the Douglas? What are they going to say? What ethnicity they would say they are?
Caller, you just mentioned it yourself. You identified it yourself. Just exactly what you said.
Mixed?
That's correct.
Are they African or are they East Indian?
They are mixed. You just said that they are mixed, and that's
Right,
exactly
so
what they are.
East Indian identify to India, African identify to Africa.
If we are talking race, then yes.
Douglas race identify to.
That's
To
their
the Douglas
Douglas.
continent.
But going back to the previous caller, he mentioned that Mr. Robinson, even though he made the error earlier, appointed Mr. Manning based on moral and spiritual values.
Right.
You do not appoint a prime minister based on moral and spiritual values. you appoint a prime minister who commands the majority of the support in the House of Representatives. Now, I'll tell you, in that particular case, it was 1818, it was a hung parliament. Convention throughout the world has it that the only time you remove a sitting prime minister is when he's defeated. And Mr. Pandey was not defeated. I am not quite sure if race played a part there, but if anybody can tell me otherwise, I would like to know. As somebody had mentioned earlier also, and mentioned the name Satmaraj. Can we accept the truth that Mr. Satmaraj is not an Indian leader, he's a Hindu leader? And I do not know why people continue to associate him as an Indian leader.
I want to answer that question because I sat right in this room and I made that statement. When Mr. Satmaraj goes on air, he doesn't only represent the Hindu religion, he represents his people, the East Indian community.
What I know is that he is the General Secretary of the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha, which is a Hindu organization.
Yes.
I have never heard, and I'll be very honest to say it, that he representing the Indian people in this country.
But I understand what you are saying, sir. But what I am seeing is that whenever he speaks, the people of the East Indian people benefit from it.
But hold
It
up,
may
but-
appear so,
right.
but he does not represent the Presbyterians, the Muslims,
The Hindu.
the atheists, or otherwise.
Yes.
He represents Hindus. And when he represents Hindus of all races in this country.
Okay. And that is fair enough because remember in my statement I said, although he represents the Hindu community, because that's where his base is, I believe, that's my belief, that the East Indian community are represented at the same time. That's my take on it. That's my understanding.
But, Mr.
I
So when he represents an African Hindu in this country, how do you view that? What's your...
I like that.
Now, if I may, Mr. Nanku, you pointed out that the religions, Orisha as well as Baptist, they are from the African community. And is it not that Hinduism comes from the East Indian faction?
Well, I'll tell you. Civilization, human life started in India. You would have heard, and you
Mr.
continue
Nanku,
to hear.
We will go back and forth with that because
but you continue to hear.
At one
and
time
if
they would
we
say
go back
that comes from Africa and then you say it comes from India. So,
who it is said in history that the wise man came from the east?
Mr. Nanku, you know...
It is the Africans who said that.
This is the very first time that I am hearing that civilization or life began or had begun in India. I've always...
Do you want me to prove it to you?
No, listen to me.
I can prove it to you
This is not an
within 2
argument
minutes.
between us, but what I'm saying, this is the very first time in my entire life I've ever heard that statement.
Can be calculated.
Since I know myself, I've heard that all life form began in the land, in the continent of Africa. And I'm sure if callers would call in, they would be saying the same thing. The majority of them would be saying the same thing because that's my understanding. But I'm not here to argue with you about on that basis because every ethnic group will want to make that claim.
Can we analyze it? I'm willing to
but
do that.
Mr. Nanku, unfortunately, we really don't have time to get into
To that, yes, that's a deep,
the
very deep,
specifics
deep
of
I'm
conversation.
willing to analyze it at any time.
Absolutely, and my set is always welcome to both parties collectively or individually. Hi, good afternoon, caller. Caller, you live. Caller, are you there?
Yes, presently.
Good afternoon, my love.
Hi, good afternoon. It's a scientific fact. There's two human genome projects that already establishes that life began in Africa. But nevertheless, the point I am calling to make, sometimes we feel the need to find solidarity with people that look alike and whatever physical attributes that would prove that makes us feel more strongly about being solidarity. That does not excuse the right to defend people that may be amongst us that do wrong. Now, not because people look like us means that they accept. There's something within us called the class struggle. Besides the ethnic struggle, there are people whose ambitions are beyond being a part of an ethnic group. Politicians, economists, doctors, people have ambitions that separate their allegiances. We may support them, but their true passion and ambition is towards becoming part of a different class, and they would align themselves regardless of their ethnicities. At that level, they all are one. The other quick point is that when a person or a dominant interest needs to conquer everything else. They divide the rest. And the first thing they do is culturally take away their gods and give them impressions and characteristics of gods that looks like them. And then they find themselves lost, confused, and fighting the wrong fight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Now, Mr. Nanku, you were making a very valid point when it comes to the East Indian community and economic empowerment. Could you elaborate on that for me, please? And tell me, when you juxtapose that to the African community, is it the same thing? And I'll take the call after Mr. Nanku gives his contribution.
Well, the culture is that the East Indian descendant believes in economic power, and you would see that business, agriculture, and so on. You will notice that the African person in this country especially believe in believe in political power. And that is one of the reasons you see, if you look at election time, the majority of people who vote are African people. History says that. The figures are there. The figures are there for those who will calculate it. It's there. The issue of who they vote for is not the issue at this point, but in direct answer to a question, more African people go out to vote than Indian people. And that tells you something.
Do you think that the African community has been represented well politically?
I am not quite sure, and the reason I will say that is because of the fact, whereas I have seen in this country, and history will say it, and I can analyze it, and for those of us who want to be honest, we'll notice. There are many people of African descent who want to get into the parliament. Whether they represent the interests of their people is another question. And that's what the question is. They represent their own interests many times. It happens with Indian people also.
But not as much as the let's just be real, Mr. Nanku.
If it is that African people in the parliament represented the interests of their people, Laventil would not have been as it is today. Bagatelle would not have been as it is today. Morva would not have been as it is today, and other places are there. If you look at Valsayn, you look at Lange Park, you look at many of those
St. Augustine, Southern Main,
those upper class housing areas, you would see it is not predominantly African. Yet, history would show you that most of the parliamentarians, past and present in this country, has been African people.
Empress.
Hence the reason why our dear founder, Mr. William Monroe, saw it fit.
Saw the need.
Saw it fit and the need to have an organization as a Black Caucus movement. And you know, my heart will always be grateful to Mr. William Monroe for what he have done for the African community. He has shown us where we can become economically strong if we unite together, if we bargain together. This has been preached maybe thousands of times in this room and other airwaves, where Mr. William Monroe affords us that, that affordability to come here and sit and to encourage our people to become economically strong. And because what the gentleman is saying is quite right about our political attributions. We base our attributes to political things and not economics. And we have been preaching this about Black economic. We know about business. Black people know about business. We have been the people who have had the old ladies would have passed around with a tray on their heads. Just as how the Syrian man used to walk around with his suitcase and clothes. We have done these things. The ice cream. We have done it in both ethnic groups, the East Indian and the African community. We have done this, but the African, the tulum, the sugar cake, the drops, the sweet bread, all those delicacies came from the African, the pone. All these delicacies came from the African chili bibi, and all these things I know about came. So we know about business, but somewhere along the line, we have lost the sight of how we manage our business. No, that's our problem.
Right, Mr. Nanku, we are on the topic of politics. I dare to say that between now, at least from independence, when you would have had predominantly the PNM, I assert the position that the PNM has not represented the interest of the African community, as you have seen the East Indian represent the interest of the East Indian community, specifically the Hindu community, more particularly between the period of 2010 and 2015. So is it that this country has two pro-East Indian political organizations?
I would say no.
Elaborate.
I'll tell you. Firstly, the UNC is seen by many to be an Indian party, and that's not true at all. You do not blame the leadership of a party based on the people who support it. So the UNC is an all-inclusive party, and the founder of the United National Congress, Mr. Basdev Pandey, has always preached that. If it is that people of one race gravitate towards that party, so be it.
Right.
But the thing is that history has shown you in this country, sad to say, but it is a fact,
Right.
that many Africans will not support a political party where the leader is of Indian descent.
Okay, that's a
When Robinson was the leader of our single party, the NAR,
Right.
there were many Africans who gravitated towards it.
Right.
After the demise of the NAR and we formed the UNC, there are many who left.
Right, Mr. Nanku, we got to, stop for a pause to take this call. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my love. Could you make it really quick? We're running out of time. Caller, you live?
This conflict they're having there right now ain't making no sense.
Sorry?
The Black Caucus movement, right? They're trying for the poor people, they're trying to get the houses and everything in order. All these scrap houses and everything that was on breaking down. All these scrap houses in the hall, and they try to get the government to build up the houses and the help
Right.
people. The Black Caucus try to do that. They show you pictures on breaking down.
Yes,
week after
we
week,
understand all
saying
of
that
that.
try
Could
to
you make
build
your
up the
point,
houses.
please?
Right? The Black Caucus movement really trying to help the big people. They didn't really try to get a stop at it. They stop and they reached a point that they could not make a game with it, so they didn't bother to follow it through.
Are you a member of the Black Caucus movement?
Huh?
Are you a member of the BCM, the Black Caucus movement?
No.
Well, then get off of my phone and don't call back this TV station calling me and talking about the Black Caucus movement when you sound like an African and you want to condemn an organization that went forward to make steps to provide for the African community. The Black Caucus movement is not one person. The Black Caucus movement should comprise of over 600,000 African people. Mr. Nanku, I regret taking your call.
Kimm, I'll tell you. The Black Caucus movement has an agenda to protect the interests of people of their race, which is exactly what is my objective with regard to GoPio. We must have equality, and we must ensure that people who have worked hard get their just dues.
Yes.
We are the same. We might just belong to two different organizations and belong to two different races, but we are parallel, and that is how we combine ourselves to get success.
Would you support the Black Caucus movement, or do you see
I have always supported them, and I will continue to support them.
Do you see a need for other ethnic groups and other ethnic organizations to support the African community, given the current crime situation? It's no secret that majority of the violent crimes are perpetuated by members of the African community,
I'll tell you
particularly
something.
the youths.
I am a counselor myself.
That we know, Mr.
And
Abu.
I have seen a difference in the culture where, in the case of Indian descent, children have a lot more fear and a lot more respect for their parents and elders as opposed to a number of African families. I've seen it.
That's a fact.
And that is one of the problems that creates the issue of crime. Sometimes, I'll tell you something, forgive me. I was counseling a client, and I was also doing some legal work for that client. That client, 35-year-old, I will not call her name, she's of African descent, and 8 children, multiple fathers. And when I asked her, who's the father? You know what she said? I don't know his name, I know they just call him Gold Teeth, but you have a child for that man. That culture is, you find it more in African families than in Indian families because of fear, the command that many Indian people have on their children. And that is being eradicated, and I'm hoping that we bring it back to where it belonged.
Do you care to comment on that, Empress?
Yes, I could to a certain extent. That's again where traditional customs
And as the culture is supposed
and the culture of a people are upheld. And this is where the African community has to go and revisit again, because we used to be a family like that. We used to be an extended family where we took care of each other. And somewhere along the line, we were brought to another sort of family life. And when you lose your way with custom and culture, which is not upheld totally in the African-based community, that's the end result that you just spoke about.
Right. Now, I have one final question for you, Mr. Nanku, before we wrap up your segment, because I promised my audience that we're going to touch on what happened to the Black Caucus movement. Do you think that the Emancipation Support Committee has done enough for the African community?
I believe that they have done nothing for the African community. What they do at Emancipation Day celebrations, they have functions. It is a fete. Spending monies and so on. That is not what is needed. What is needed is a change in the culture, a change in the behavior. You know, there was a saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. And if you teach him to fish, you feed him for life. That is what is needed in the African community.
Mr. Gopio, I would like to comment on your part with the fish. Encouraging a man to become a fisherman rather than you go every day into the sea and give him a fish. Because this is where we have a dependent syndrome. You wait on the shore for that fisherman to come in rather than you go out there and fish. And this is where the Black Caucus movement, at this point in time, we are encouraging our membership to start fishing and stop waiting to be fed a fish.
Thank you so much. We've got to take a very short break. I must say thank you so much to you, my love, Mr. Karen Nanku. You are always welcome to be a part of the Cold Truth to continue further discussions as it relates to race and politics. And when we return, we are going to continue with Empress Judy, who is going to bring us up to speed with what is taking place or what has happened with the Black Caucus movement. Before we go, Mr. Gopi, any closing words?
Thank you very much for hosting me in your program, for giving me the opportunity to give my views. But I must say to those, I hope that I am not misunderstood, as it happened several times. I hope that I am not intentionally misunderstood. And some of my statements were made in direct response to your questions.
Absolutely.
Now, the thing is that for those of us who will want to honestly analyze my statements, I did not come to this program to talk based only about Indian culture or people of Indian race and so on. But I'm here to talk about equality and the betterment of Trinidad and Tobago.
And before Mr. Gopio goes, I would like to tell you one of the mantra or the principle of the Black Caucus movement is human life will only be of equal value when it is of equal worth. Meaning we include all persons because we all belong to that one race, the human race.
Thank you so much. You are viewing The Cold Truth. We will be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
Our nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kimm Cole. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.
Edge Solution is a brand of hair and skin products that are used to treat different issues. We offer a hair treatment oil that repairs traction, alopecia, and thinning hair and edges. A scalp treatment cream that's used for dandruff, dry scalp, folliculitis, and other funguses that are in the scalp. We also have a shampoo and conditioner that works along with our cream and oil, giving you maximum benefits. Our shampoo is peppermint infused, which helps unclog pores and aid in hair regrowth. We also have a calming skin lotion, which is excellent for psoriasis, eczema, and other skin issues. All our products are all natural and contains no harsh chemicals and are 100% handmade.
The Red Edge Mall at the corner Mooneyram Street and Western Main Road, St. James, where parking is available for our valued customers on both sides of the street. Red Edge Mall caters for the health conscious, the tastiest soups you'll ever find, the freshest produce, trendy clothing for the fashion dons and divas. Experience the most exotic African male and female outfits, costume jewelry of all descriptions. If you're one who pays special attention to your hair, welcome to the home of hair. Get the latest and widest variety of phones of all descriptions and repairs on the spot at the Red Edge Mall. Closing time 9 p.m. The Red Edge Mall, making shopping affordable. Powered by the Black Caucus Movement.
The Black Caucus Movement, we're making a statement. The Black Caucus Movement, making a statement. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Welcome to Tanti's Hero Food Delight. We are located at Orsa Espana and Duke Street, Port of Spain. Graduated from THCI, which they call Hotel School at Shagaramas, and I am the owner of this business, and we have daily lunches, which is from Tuesdays to Saturdays. On a Saturday we do breads, sweet bread. We also have soups, oxtail soup and cowbell soups to your delight. We also have different menus daily from 11 to 3. We also cater for different occasions like weddings and birthday parties. We always want to ensure that the customer is satisfied with the end product here at Tanti's Kitchen.
Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kimm. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.
Welcome back to our program. You are watching The Cold Truth. I am Kimm Cole, and in studio this afternoon with me we have Empress Judy, Miss Judy Small, who is the chairman of the women's arm of the Black Caucus Movement. She's also the communications manager of the BCM, and we are discussing race relations and the political divide. Now, Empress Judy, from the inception of this program, now everybody knows Kimm Cole from hosting the Black Caucus Movement and all of that. That is where I made my debut in TV. So naturally, when they saw me hosting this new TV program, my inbox has been flooded with messages asking if this is the new Black Caucus program. And most importantly, I have received tons of calls, and people have been asking me to give them an update, tell the 10,000 plus members that we have what has happened and what is happening with the Black Caucus Movement.
And I would like very much to do so. Now remember, the Black Caucus Movement is not just 5 or 10 persons. Mm-hmm. We have always said it. I've sat here and I said it. I've heard even yourself a while ago said that the Black Caucus Movement is the entirety of all the registered members of this organization. So when I hear people say what they are doing at the Black Caucus Movement, I ask them, who they are you speaking about? What we should be saying is, what are we doing at the Black Caucus Movement? What's happening with our organization or my organization? And, you know, far too long, our people have not been claiming what belongs to them. They have been saying what's happening in the organization, not in our organization. Once you are a member of this organization, you should be wanting to know it is your right as an individual, as a member, to ask, how can I be of good use to the Black Caucus movement. I want to say something, Kim. When I came into the Black Caucus movement, I came in just as everyone else. I walked up the stairs at number 38 Western Main Road in St. James. But I never stayed. Mr. Monroe can attest to that. Keenan can attest to that. And every other member who knows me, from the very first day that I walk up that stairs up to this present moment, I have been given my entire life to the Black Caucus movement in the way of, because I understand the reason for the Black Caucus movement, the purpose of our organization.
Right, so now Empress Judy, right, I'm gonna go straight to it.
Sure.
Now, in May of last year, I saw in fact I have never been a board member of the Black Caucus movement. Let's just get that out there. Now, I saw, whilst I was looking through Facebook, I saw the resignation of David Mohammed, and I heard via a radio program that Harvey Boris also resigned in his capacity as chairman of the Black Caucus movement. So, after that time, from May of 2017, coming straight down the line up until June, July, August of 2017, the Monroe family were viciously attacked by past directors on the board of the past directors of the BCM. You had Romel from London who attacked Mr. Monroe in particular. Why did the board of the BCM, and I ask you this because you held a board position as the chair of the women's arm, why did the board not see it fit to defend Mr. William Monroe in his capacity as the founder of the organization? But I will even take it a step further to state that I am aware that Mr. Monroe has been your colleague, not just yours, but all of your colleagues for the past 3 years. Why was there no issue, a release issued from the board of the Black Caucus movement to defend your founder in light of all of the allegations and claims that were made that remain untrue and unsubstantiated to this day?
And I like your question, Kim. Now, the Black Caucus movement, we have executive CEO and / chairman after Mr. Harvey Boris resigned. And one of the things that Mr. Mark McConnell has always stated to us, that even whatever we need must be done in writing. Now again, we didn't see the reason to respond, because not everything you hear came, from my own ways of operating. I have learned that sometimes when people say things and you do not respond to them or you don't pay them attention, it goes away. No, I'm saying this to say that not everything that every drum that is played, you dance to that tune.
No, but
the reason why I'm saying this is, but there has been a protocol that Mr. Mark McConnell has said around the table that anything that you want aired should come in writing. Now, no point in time, I've been in that office, in, out, around. I've never sat around the board of directors table and anyone, or Mr. William Monroe, came to the meeting and said, listen, we have a problem with one of our former members, or he's a member, but a former active member, a person who has been actively involved, and called his name and said, this is happening. Although we have seen things on the media, no one has made it in the way it should have been done, to sit around that table and discuss the ways of what's happening. No, it has never been brought to the table. If we are, an organization, my dear Kim, and we have a board of people sitting there, why do we deal with matters? Sometimes we are home and we will hear all sorts of things being aired on the radio and television, and we have a board of directors sitting there, and not once, I could be wrong, but I could, as my memory can serve me, I've never heard this was brought in the forefront and say, listen, one of our members is tarnishing the name of members of our organization. No problem. You go ahead. You go ahead, love. You go ahead and say what you have to say.
I'm hearing all of the, the chatter about the protocol and all of that, but Mr. Monroe has been the founder. He has financed the organization. And I would assert a position in that $4 million he contributed when you had 10,000 members only putting $1 million towards the organization. You saw a board that I would assert did not make much effort to raise funds on behalf of the organization. I saw a board of people that was heavily dependent on the input of one gentleman. And you're saying to me that this man could be ridiculed, persecuted, not by one past board members, not by 2, not by 3, but by more than 4, 5, 6 board members. You hear what I'm saying? And not one person from the Black Caucus movement, the existing board. And I know that you saw the post. I know that Shirhan Humphrey saw the post. I know that Keenan Monroe saw all of the posts. None of you saw it fit to raise that in a meeting to defend the founder of the organization. Hi, good afternoon, caller. Thank you for holding. Hello. Caller, you are live. Caller, you there or you're not there? But you can call back 622-9785, 628-6093.
Yes, Kim, again you are saying, Kim, you know, one of the problems we have faced as the African community or the African ethnic family is that as soon as we hear something, and this is something that I referred to earlier on to the gentleman, that even though you may hear things, you may see somebody come up on the social media and say some things, we have an organization. If I have a problem with someone tarnishing my name out there, I do not have to respond to that person. The important thing, I belong to an organization. I will come to the people who I know can take this, and we'll sit together and determine the way in which we should go. Because we have been always washing our dirty linen in the public domain. And I believe it's time that the African community stop this.
But you have seen these board members talking and attacking the gentleman for 5 months, and the organization itself. We're not talking about an external party who you don't know and who you don't know and nobody knows. You're talking about the founder of the organization. And Mr. Monroe has been so good to everybody, at least on the board, from what I can say. And nobody, not one person, came out and defended him. Do you not think that that would have hurt not just Mr. Monroe, but other members of the Black Caucus movement?
Kim, I am saying again, every one of those director is an individual. We didn't have unlearned persons sitting around that table.
Exactly.
And it was a choice of those persons to come forward. No, again, there was never a meeting where somebody say, listen, I'm not going to support Mr. William. As far as I am aware, I don't know if there were meetings that I was unaware of, but as far as I'm aware of, the chairperson, the executive chair of the BCM.
Who is now the chairman of the organization.
Listen, Mr. Mark McCannell was never appraised by Mr. William Monroe to say, as far as I'm aware of, to say, listen, you heard what is happening. This is a normal thing we do. And this is nothing to defend anyone, because I am not about to defend anyone. I could speak for myself, because I sat in this space here and I had an entire 2-hour program showing the people.
Empress, that was after the fact. There was only one person who came out and defended William Monroe, and that person is sitting down here, and that is me. And I wasn't even on TV or anything to do with the Black Caucus movement at the time, so I don't understand, you know, the assertions. Hi, good afternoon. Hello?
Hello?
Hi. Yes, good afternoon. Caller, make it quickly, please. We're running out of time.
Yeah. Okay, I am so glad that today that we're talking about the Black Caucus and all things that went wrong. Because when I look at it, Mr. Monroe has given his life for the Black Caucus. He gave his home. He gave his money. He gave his land. He gave his offices. He gave everything towards the Black Caucus, for the Black Caucus. And the next thing we know, he was being told that he and his son are holding things back.
The problem.
Was true.
Right.
Everybody now is asking, what happened in the Black Caucus? So I'm glad that we are looking at those issues right now. And you know, I
Thank
think
you so much, caller. We are out of time. But what is taking place with the Black Caucus movement now? Given the fact that, everybody was saying that the Monroe family and William Monroe is the problem, what is taking place with the organization? What issues is the organization fighting? Has the organization fallen flat? Many of my audience has asserted the position that nothing is going on with the Black Caucus.
The reason why people will assert that sort of statement, the Black Caucus movement, as we all say, was founded financially by Mr. William Monroe.
The idea, let me correct you, the idea came from William Monroe.
Well, and we are aware it was founded. The idea was born.
No, but you just said financially.
No,
so
not only financially,
Great.
The very genesis of the Black Caucus movement is Mr. William Monroe.
Right.
And this will be told to anyone. There's nobody could stand up in front of me and said, Mr. William Monroe, what Mr. William Monroe had done for Trinidad and Tobago, the African ethnic family.
Well, I mean, in hindsight, I mean, you're saying that to me now, and I'm not here to attack you or anything like that.
And I've always said it.
Right, but you say it after the fact when the damage was already done.
And again, even before that damage was done, we have heard several issues of people say a lot of things about Mr. Monroe.
Right, but there's a difference when you have people just on the wayside talking about somebody. When you have past board members, you have the former chairman of the organization, then you have another director, then you have another director, then you have one of the media personalities, Scarface, Scratch-Up-Face, Romel, saying all these nasty things about the person and the board. If it were me, I would say that I was surrounded by snakes, Empress Judy.
And again,
and
I'm saying
I make
to you,
no apology for saying that.
Sorry, Kimm, I am saying to you again, all those persons who sat on the board of directors are well-learned people. And they have had the opportunity, whether or not they wanted to support Mr. William Monroe, speak out. They may have their own reason why they didn't do it. And I think, just as how you are asking me, you can ask them that question. Forward it to them. Ask them right now, why didn't you not support Mr. William Monroe in his time of need, seeing what he had done for our community?
Well, you're not the person that you're not the only person that I have reached out to.
No, no problem.
I have reached out to everybody, and just to let my viewing audience know, I would definitely be continuing this program tomorrow so as to, give some clarity as to where the Black Caucus movement is now and what is happening. Would you be able to join us tomorrow? We appear to be out of time.
Tomorrow I will not be able to join you. But I'm saying at this point in time, the Black Caucus movement, when Mr. William Monroe decided that he no longer wanted to be a sitting person.
But can you blame him under the
No.
circumstances? I would not ever in a lifetime want to sit around the table with a bunch of people who saw me
and Mr. Monroe has the right.
publicly.
Mr. William Monroe has the right to do what he did. And this is for good, because far too long the African ethnic family has depended on somebody to support them. And as the gentleman who just left from the GoPO, he has stated, it's time the African ethnic family start fishing rather than standing and allowing somebody to hand them a fish. We have been doing this for far too long. One of the things Mr. William Monroe said on the day when he sat here with Keenan and Mr. Makano and Shahan, he said that it's time the African ethnic families stand up and start supporting themselves.
Right.
And this is rightfully so. We need to do that. We need to stand up and start supporting ourselves. We have to take the responsibility as acknowledging that we have an organization. And one thing I want to say to our people out there, if you do not take the responsibility of financing your organization, then you will find yourself one day somebody else holding the post, and then you will say again, here goes. But then you are the person who allowed this to happen to yourself. You have the opportunity to stand and be a voice and be a financial member. To be a monthly contribution is we ask of the measly sum of $20 per month. We have thousands of people belonging to this dynamic
How many
group.
new members have come forward since?
I can't give you a clear picture of how many, because we have had people around who, in different various regions, who would have had people coming into the Black Caucus movement. But as any organization, we were left with nothing because of Mr. Monroe was the one who had channeled the Black Caucus movement. And when this came, nobody left $1 million on a deed for the Black Caucus movement. And in order that we go forward, every single person who call themselves members of this organization, the Black Caucus Movement, has to stand and take that responsibility and put that $20 per month.
Now,
I believe Keenan had paid his monthly dues, or part of his dues. He did that.
Right. Now, what about Mr. Makano? In his capacity as current executive chairman of the Black Caucus Movement, what sort of progress, or what progress has the organization made under his watch?
What we have been doing, the Black Caucus Movement, we have had, what we have is a regulation draft that had to be put in place because we have had no guideline where documentation has been concerned. And the membership have been crying out for a constitution where they can be guided accordingly. At this present time, we had a meeting yesterday with some of the members who have asked us to get this on the go, to ensure that they have something to hold on to. Just as any country has to have a constitution, it's the same way the Black Caucus Movement must have guidelines. Before we can go forward, there are certain things that have to be done. Number one, sorry, Kim, is ensuring that our financial constraints are met. If you do not have finance, you cannot go forward. If you want to go from here to downtown, you have to have money, else you have to walk. And this is where we stand right now. Our people has to take that responsibility. As a member of this organization, take up that mantle, that responsibility, and knowing, just as all the other ethnic groups will believe and get together when the time comes and make that contribution. You cannot have a $100 lifetime membership. Who is going to carry all the expenses of the organization? Who is going to house an office space? Yes.
Time is really limited.
Yes, thank you, Kim.
Right. You're saying that whilst the Black Caucus Movement formulates this constitution, we're seeing what is taking place in the country as it relates to the African community. What has been done in the interests of the African community under the new board of the Black Caucus Movement?
We have met with several persons throughout the country who has called the BCM number and asked for assistance in various ways.
Like?
Right? In ways that they need attorneys to take up their matter. We have had a lot of those calls. Persons wanting to know where they can help to have the organization go forward. We have had persons from overseas who are members of the Black Caucus Movement or haven't been a member, but they found that when they looked and they saw what the Black Caucus Movement is offering, which is the upliftment of the African ethnic family, they wanted to be part of this group.
Right, but Mr. Nanku pointed out the importance of economic power.
Yes.
Has the Black Caucus Movement now, since the election in September 2017, the presence of the Black Caucus?
Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institution